Yes, welcome back to the South Australian Sports Show. Poppy, time to turn our attention to surf lifesaving. The season starts this weekend, so we thought we'd get one of the greats in. Sean McKenzie's been good enough. One of the greats, mate, from the Semaphore Surf Lifesaving Club. Sean, thanks for coming in, mate.
No worries, thanks for having me.
Well, mate, a little bit about yourself before we get on to what's happening in surf lifesaving. So you started as a junior nipper?
Yeah, I think it's about 20 years ago now. I started when I was 8, so starting to show my age a bit.
Is it something the parents were into? Most times the kids follow the parents in a sport they were involved with. Was that the case?
No, my cousin started. I think he followed a friend down, and my cousin, we sort of spent all the time together back then. So when he went down, I followed and loved it and hung around and kept coming back.
Now, mate, you're captain at the club. Being 2009, 2014, I reckon you're captain at Semaphore. Is that right? We hear about the junior nippers, then we hear about the end. There's a fair bit that goes on in between, though, isn't there?
Yeah.
What's the progression from junior nipper through to being a lifesaver?
So when they're 13, that's when they get their sort of first qualification, the surf rescue certificate to start patrolling. So that's when they sort of start becoming, a lifesaver. They're still in nippers at that stage. And then when they turn 15, they get their bronze medallion, which I think is just a bit more of an advancement of the qualification, and they can sort of take on a few more roles on the patrols from there. And it's about sort of 13, 14 when they sort of, transition from nippers into the senior division, and sort of the sort of training intensity picks up a fair bit from there, and moving to the seniors.
Traditionally, lifesavers were seen as the male and females on the beach that someone got into trouble in the water, they went and saved it. Then the Uncle Toby series sort of started. Yeah. And then suddenly life-saving profile lifted enormously. Now there's a competitive side to it, and then there's the actual life-saving side on the beach. How do you divide that up as a club?
Well, to compete, we're required to do a minimum amount of patrol hours. That's good. Yeah, that sort of varies state to state. Obviously, Queensland, New South Wales having the warmer weathers, they patrol for a longer season, so they're sort of required to get more hours than the sort of South Australians, Victorians, Tasmanians. I think every club's sort of a bit different. We sort of just have about 10 rosters, and we just sort of rotate through Saturday, Sunday, public holidays from October to Easter we finish up.
What gets you drawn in? Because from my point of view, there's a few obstacles. 1, budgie smugglers. It doesn't do it. 2, my hairy back. 3, I can't swim. So obviously there's 3 big problems there. What gets people involved? Because once they're involved, they seem to be in for life. They're passionate and they love it.
Well, is
it the community aspect? Is it the social aspect, or is it all of the above?
It's all of the above, because when you got a surf club of 500 to 600, more for some clubs depending on sort of where they're located, sort of 95% of my friends are from the lifesaving club. So you're either training with your friends, or when the bistro gets going, you might be sort of having food and a couple of drinks with your friends. Yeah. And you go back and sort of hang out with all the people that you sort of spend the whole time with. So, even guys that don't really do much of the lifesaving anymore, they don't compete, they don't do patrols, they still come back to the lifesaving club almost weekly, just because they know that's where all their friends are going to be.
And you know what? One thing I've noticed in recent years is that the clubs themselves have been lifted to a new level. Eastern Seaboard, they always were pretty spoilt. Yeah. But here in South Australia, for a long time, we did it tough. Yeah. You go down a lot of surf lifesaving clubs now, they're good, they're great.
Yeah, I mean, we have to. Obviously, the Eastern clubs, one of their big things is the majority of them have got pokies in the club. So there's pretty big revenue raiser right there, and we don't have them. So we just need to try and sort of do with what we can. And when some of the clubs, we're sort of on the beachfront and there's nothing else around us, we've got prime location, we've got prime views, so we're sort of silly not to set up a good bistro and bar and try and do as well as we can out of that.
Mate, tell us a little bit about the High Performance Academy. That's 2 years now. How did that evolve?
Yeah, so this is the second year. It's all aimed towards the world titles, which were in Adelaide in 2018. So they set that up last year. There was a bit of a pilot program with sort of not as many people. And this is the second year, sort of expanded a little bit, and so I've been brought in sort of as part of the high performance program, and also to mentor, the younger sort of tier 2, so the younger kids, the 17, sort of 19, that sort of age group, and just to help them out and guide them through.
How many kids would be in the program now?
I think we've got about 40 odd. That's from tier 1, tier 2, so sort of tier 1 are, a bit of older guys, more experienced, sort of high level competitors, and So I think it's about sort of 20 to 30 tier 2 guys as well. They're sort of the younger kids.
Mate, you mentioned the 2018 World Champs here. I mean, traditionally we think of Australia dominating some sports. That would be one we'd be thinking we'd be pretty good at. Who would be the other countries that would come in and be pretty competitive?
Oh, yeah, funny you mentioned that. The New Zealanders have actually gone 3 in a row in the world titles.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. I mean, the large majority of the guys who race for New Zealand live in Queensland and compete for the Queensland clubs.
Yeah.
When it comes time to put on the national cap, they put the New Zealander cap back on. And so, although New Zealanders are winning, they are, I think probably 90% of the team would be sort of living in and training here in Australia. So they're the two main ones. Surf life saving involves the pool life saving aspect as well. So the Italians and the French are pretty big at that.
Yeah.
And then the Americans and the South Africans, the ocean's a pretty big thing for them. So they're always around about the mark as well.
How does South Australia get to host the event? Because, you know, when you talk about beaches, I automatically think Queensland, Eastern Seaboard, New South Wales. I don't think South Australia, although we've got some great beaches.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've got some great beaches, but, you know, when there's countries like Belgium, Switzerland, a number of other countries that are landlocked that will do their pool life saving and their surf life saving on lakes and rivers.
Yeah.
Egypt and some African countries and some Asian countries as well that don't have surf. So to go and put them onto the Gold Coast beaches where there's waves, they don't have that experience.
We've got a better chance of winning. I mean, that's perfect.
Yeah, well, that's it. But I guess they're trying to cater for everyone.
Yeah, of course.
So they do tend to send them to locations where we don't get proper swell. I mean, obviously we can get our stormies as we've had the last few weeks. Yeah. I mean, they recently, a few weeks ago, they were in the Netherlands, and sort of the early part of the competition, it was probably similar to what we had here, pretty stormy and pretty wavy. But then when it came time for the national events, it was probably what you sort of expect on a lake, really.
Mate, you touched on it. The surf season starts this weekend for you guys. You're out and about. I mean, there has been some pretty bad storms. There's a lot of dirt and stuff in the water. What's the lead-in for you guys? I mean, so I'd imagine when it's good water, you've got your standard problems, but now with all the mud and stuff that's in there, how much more dangerous for the swimmers than for you guys?
Just obviously the flow off from all the rivers, the storm water and everything like that runs in the rivers, runs out into the oceans and spreads from there. So, you know, there's been a couple of days where we just can't get on the water. And then there's the debris with all the high tides and the king tides, sort of everything's been washed away, and so we've got to just be wary that there could be fences and fence posts and trees and branches in the waters. So it's all starting to settle now. It only takes a couple of days for things to settle, but you know,
one thing that actually really scares me about the water, the fact that I can't swim, that's irrelevant. But the other thing is bloody sharks. I'm dead set serious. Ever since I saw Jaws, I reckon it was 1973, I can't go above the water, and even then, I'm ready to run like Marty Matner. I tell you right now, I'm scared of them. Is that a fear you got to get over, or you just don't even think about it?
Oh, you can't.
It seems to be in the press all the time, though, lately.
It is. I think that's partly just because of the sort of social media side where, you know, those issues have always been there, but now we've got helicopters and planes in the sky and social media that they can spot the sharks before. You know, they've always been there, but now we spot them and then it goes on social media and it spreads. So you've got no choice but to push it straight at the back of your mind, because as soon as you start thinking about
that's right.
You just, you know, even though I'm fine with it, I've been in the ocean for 20 years, I've passed my whole life, but as soon as you start thinking about it, you go into a panic. So you just got to just force it out and just get on with the job.
Mate, we need to go. I want to talk to you more about the World Champs. I'll have to get you back for that. But just quickly, in that 20 years, have you ever seen one? Ever seen a shark in the water?
No, I haven't. I think there's been a couple of races where we've been about to start and they call it off because they see a shark, and they usually get the helicopters and the boats to sort of shepherd it out to sea, and we sort of give it a good half hour, an hour before we'll be allowed back in the water to make sure it's all good. And
keep your fingers crossed. All right, be safe in the surf this weekend. Sean was our special guest. World Champs not too far away here in Australia. We need to get to a break. Stay with us, still plenty to come.